but in the battlefield, can you keep hiding out there, never coming out? If I were to flee, what would you do? Yi sneered, unable to find Zhang Yi's weak point. He still felt unconvinced. He believed that Zhang Yi had taken advantage of the geographical advantage. However, he did not understand that a true master knows how to make good use of everything around them. Zhang Yi heard this and silently put down the two guns in his hands. I was going to solve this problem in a simple manner, but all I got in return was your arrogance. Fine, I'm not going to pretend anymore, I'm going to show you my cards. Zhang Yi let out a long sigh. The light was already condensing in the middle of his right eye. When he lowered his right hand and looked at Yi, an aura of death instantly enveloped his body. Yi broke out in a layer of white, sweat-covered hair. He quickly used his shadow to move his body 300 meters away. But Zhang Yi quickly turned around, his eyes still fixed on his position. The displacement ability also has a cooldown time. Each activation requires another 10 seconds before it can be used again. This time, he was locked in by Zhang Yi and there was no escape. Divine Might. Zhang Yi's right eye suddenly opened, and in the front of his vision, a huge cylindrical space instantly became distorted. Without a sound, the walls of the training ground were opened up by a huge gap. Designed specifically for training mutants, the heavy reinforced concrete was pierced through like rotten mud, creating a 3-meter-wide passage. Yi stood there in a daze, as death passed him by. He felt a cold sensation in his head, a bone-chilling cold. Zhang Yi looked at him coldly. Do you want to continue? Yi stood there in a daze, unable to find the words to say for a moment. But one thought came to mind. How foolish was it to try to challenge the person in front of him? This kind of terrifying pressure and feeling of despair had only been given to him by Deng Shintong before. That was an opponent he could never defeat. However, Zhang Yi and Deng Shintong were two completely different mutants. Deng Shintong was all about offense. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, would first maintain his absolute defense before going on the offensive. However, his attacks were always calculated and always lethal. Playing with them using pistols was just teasing them. Ha ha ha. The air in the arena seemed to have frozen, but the silence was broken by loud laughter from the sidelines. Wu Di was holding his stomach, pointing a finger at Yi and resting one hand on Li Changqing's arm, laughing until he was doubled over. The others looked at him and couldn't help laughing as well. Yi was a little confused, but soon he realized something was wrong. The cool feeling on the top of his head seemed to be more than just a psychological effect. He subconsciously reached out to touch his head, but it felt very slippery. His hair had been shaved off by Zhang Yi. Ow! Yi shouted in disbelief. He was at least considered a handsome man, and had a lot of female fans in Blizzard City. Now that Zhang Yi had shaved off some of his hair that he cared about the most, how could he go out in public in the future? Zhang Yi said coldly, this farce ends here. Hey, you there. He looked at Lu Yinghao. Lu Yinghao said obediently, Zhang. Captain, what are your orders? Good boy, you're quick to change your tune. Zhang Yi glanced at him. Take these two guys down for treatment. Lu Yinghao didn't dare go over to check Xuan Miao's injuries until he received Zhang Yi's order. Yi slumped onto the ground in a state of despair, his face showing no sign of life. Zhang Yi, however, did not feel the least bit sorry for them. From now on, you can quit the Tengu squad whenever you want. My decision will not change. Yi looked up at Zhang Yi. His mouth opened as if he wanted to say something, but then he thought about what he had done and could not bring himself to say anything. It turned out that they were the clowns themselves. Li Changqing, out of respect, came over and helped Yi up. Then he sent the three of them off from the training ground. I know a doctor who is very good at treating hair loss. He has a kind of cola there that will cure all diseases and your hair will grow back quickly. Li Changqing saw the three members of the original Heavenly God Squad off and returned to the training ground. At this time, the members of the Black Robe Squad looked at Zhang Yi with more awe in their eyes. Zhang Yi is now much more powerful than they first understood. In particular, the kind of defense that cannot be broken, no matter how hard they think, the people there cannot find a way to deal with it. Zhang Yi looked at them and said very straightforwardly, as you all know, the Tengu Squad was formed only as a temporary team. After we solve the problem of Eclipse Moon, the team will be disbanded. Because of this, those guys are acting even more recklessly. But here, I want to tell you, as long as this team exists, I will be its captain for as long as it exists. Anyone who makes me unhappy, I will make them even more unhappy. The atmosphere became much more serious. Zhang Yi had already proven to them three he and the others that he was not someone to be trifled with. The Heavenly God Squad has already failed in their mission to subdue the Eclipse Moon, and 8 people, including their captain, have died. I don't think you think you're much better than they were. So now you must face the problems we will encounter with the utmost seriousness. Otherwise, you will die. Bai Li Changqing nodded. He stood straight, in the standard military posture. Yes, Captain. We are already aware of this in our hearts. From the first day they joined the investigation team, they had been aware of this. Moreover, the investigation squad has always had a revolving door of members, and more than 90% of those who were eliminated died in the line of duty. Why should the investigation squad enjoy a high-level supply of resources? They have earned them with their lives. Zhang Yi nodded. It's best to have this kind of awareness. But there's no need to sacrifice in vain. My abilities are more defensive, and my personality is the same. So during combat, I will do my best to protect everyone's lives. The time of the operation is unknown, and the plan of action will need to be decided based on the occasion of the eclipse moon. In this regard, Vice Captain Bai Li is an expert. Zhang Yi looked at Bai Li Changqing. There was no dispute about him serving as vice captain. Both his strength and popularity convinced everyone. Zhang Yi said to Bai Li Changqing, in the time to come, I hope you can strengthen the training of the team members. There can be no room for slacking. Bai Li Changqing crossed his arms and responded loudly, yes, Captain. In fact, over the past few months, their team's training had never let up. Even if the higher-ups looked down on their team of dissatisfied recruits, they would not give up on themselves. They were just waiting for this day, a chance to go into battle. Zhang Yi walked up to Bai Li Changqing and whispered in his ear, as for the three of us, you'll have to give us some private lessons. Zhang Yi gave Bai Li Changqing a wink. It was a bit strange to say something like that in public, and as captain, his basic combat skills were definitely not as good as those of the members of the Black Robe Squad. Yang Xinxin and Liang Yu were also lacking in this area. Having Bai Li Changqing give them special training would definitely be beneficial. Bai Li Changqing paused for a moment, then smiled and replied, yes, as you wish. He rubbed his hands together. However, the training for the three of you cannot be done together with the rest of the team. There will be a big difference in the training methods and intensity. Will this affect the subsequent battle? If the training doesn't go well, the subsequent teamwork will definitely not be as tacit. Zhang Yi, however, remained calm. This is not a big deal. Just help us train well. He doesn't expect them to have the combat literacy of professional soldiers in a short period of time. Any improvement is some improvement. Oh, by the way, there's one more thing I need your help with. Zhang Yi whispered a sentence in Bai Li Changqing's ear. Bai Li Changqing was a little surprised. He looked deeply at Liang Yu and nodded slowly. Then he said to the others, you guys go ahead and do your daily training. The captain and I have something we need to take care of. Wu Di and the others had no idea what they were up to. But now Zhang Yi and Bai Li Changqing were the captain and vice captain, and they naturally had to obey what they were told.